So the first thing you want to do is go to fastlane.nsf.gov. Once here, go to Proposals, Awards, and Status. On this new screen, you're going to sign into fastlane/research.gov under the PI/co-PI login. Once you've signed in using your NSF ID and password, it'll actually take you to the research.gov My Desktop. Since SBIR proposals still have to be submitted in FastLane, go ahead and click on Prepare Proposals in FastLane. If you're submitted a new proposal, you want to click on Proposal Functions and then Proposal Preparation. Make sure your entity information is correct, and then click on Prepare Proposal. Click on the proposal type that you're going to be creating, and it'll start you off with a temporary proposal. So FastLane is kind of a finicky system, and it's not really intuitive. There's a lot of things that you have to actually do that you won't know about until an error is created. When you're actually creating your proposal, you're going to see this page, and there's a couple of key items that are needed on here. So the cover sheet is going to be the very first thing you fill out. If you don't have information in the cover sheet, it's going to continue to error out every time you try to upload something or try to actually fill anything else out. The table of contents is actually system generated, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you have references cited, you'll actually upload it to the references cited. Budget is where you put your budget and your budget justification. Facilities and equipment and other resources is a standalone document that you create, as well as project summary, project description, biographical sketches. Current and pending support is required for anybody that's going to be a key personnel on the project. And then collaborators and other affiliations is also going to be required for anybody that's key personnel. The only other things you have to worry about are a data management plan. If you're using PhD or doctoral students, they do need a mentoring plan. Typically, though, that's only if you're working with a university or somebody else that has postdoc graduates on it. And then, of course, if you actually have letters of support, they would go into the other supplementary documents. So when you click on the cover sheet, you're going to notice some information in here like awardee organization, program announcement, and the unit considerations. Normally you think that you would click Go for remainder of the cover sheet, but you have to actually fill out a primary place of performance first. The way you do that is you click Go up here. On here, you're just going to click on Add Change Primary Place of Performance, and then same as awardee organization will actually work for organization name, but the same as awardee organization doesn't really seem to work if you're actually trying to import an address. So with that, a lot of times it's just easier to enter all the information in again. It is a bit redundant, but you work within the bounds of the systems that you have. One thing you will notice here is that when you put up the zip code, it has to be the 9 digits. So you need your zip +4 is what is typically referred to as. Usually you won't know this because nobody ever uses a zip +4, but you can easily look it up. So if you go to the USPS website and you look up a zip code by address, it'll actually return to you what your zip +4 is. So when you're typing in to FastLane, for instance, for Arrowhead Center, we would just type in 88003 and then 1239. You don't need the dash. So once you enter that, you're going to click Save for your primary place of performance, and it'll drop you back to the screen. You just need to make sure that there's actually some sort of information over here on the right-hand side, and then just click Go Back. So now that that's populated, you can actually go to the remainder of the cover sheet and fill out this information. And of course, for this form, it's got a whole lot of just kind of boxes you check. You're going to have to enter a title for the proposed project. Really, that's just the title for your phase 1. A lot of people just use whatever their code name is for what they're coming up with. The requested amount's actually system generated as you fill out the budget sheet, but you will want to put in your proposed duration, again, anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And your requested starting date would really be typically what you would do is pick a date 6 months from your submission date, because that's about how long it takes to go through all the documentation, get all the review done, and actually make an award if they're going to make one. For a deadline, target, and date, it's whichever window you're in. That actually makes it a lot easier now. And then you just want to make sure that the principal investigator information is fine. They don't allow co-PIs under the SBIR program, so you don't have to fill that out. Then, of course, you want to actually make sure that the for-profit and small business information is fine. And then you're going to come all the way down to SBIR, so the Small Business Innovative Research section. Here you're going to choose your topic area, whatever the subtopic letter is. And of course, the tough thing with those is that these subtopic letters, once you select one, it's not going to automatically populate with the choices. You have to actually find it, which you can find by going to the NSF SBIR site, click on Get Started, see what we fund. Then you would actually pick whatever your topic area is. So for instance, let's say you're doing an IoT device for crop health monitoring. Well, from here you would go to Internet of Things, and then you would find out that, well, it's a sensor. So it would go under I4, IoT sensors and actuators. Or you could actually make the case that's an IoT integrated system, which would be I3. Remember though, with the NSF, the program managers all are pretty much in the same hallway. So if they get a submission and the topic area just doesn't line up with what their topics are, they'll actually walk it down to the appropriate person. And then really you're just going to move through and click either yes or no on these, whatever the answer is. Put in the company officer name. So for the company officer, this would be somebody like the CEO, president, just really whoever has contract signing authority for the company. If that's not the same person as the president, they do request the president's name, and for you to give the number of employees right now, as well as the average over the previous 12 months. For a lot of sole proprietors, it's going to be 1 and 1, or 1 and 0 even. And of course, if you are on an STTR, they want to know the investigator's name from the research institution. So that would be the PI on the university side, or if you're working with one of the federal labs, the PI from the federal lab side. And then of course, if there is proprietary information, you're going to want to mark that box. Then really for these certifications, they're all kind of related to FAR clauses. There's nothing you really need to put in here. You just need to read through them and make sure that you're operating up to standard and up to code. And then you would click OK at the bottom. If you do click OK without filling out all the required information, you get an error screen like this, which just shows up and tells you what's wrong, what you need to actually fill out before it'll save your cover sheet. So one of the kind of insane things with the cover sheet and why you want to kind of correctly fill it out once is if you do get that error screen and you have to go back, a lot of that information it actually won't save. So like all the bubbles that you filled out about the business identifiers and business information, those are completely wiped out. So try to fill it out completely the first time so that you're not continually to click the same bubbles, the same information as you try to get it to go through. One of the other things that proves to be difficult for people is when they're trying to put in budgetary information or they're trying to put in for a bio sketch for somebody that's not the PI. So if we go here to bio sketches, you'll see that the only person listed is myself. There's nowhere to actually drop in something for somebody else. That's because for anybody that's not the PI, you have to actually add them as a non-co-PI senior personnel. So for instance, I don't know if there's one here too. You would add somebody else as a non-co-PI senior personnel. So now when you go back and go into something like the bio sketch, you can actually put in the bio sketch for this person. You may think to yourself, well, that's kind of, silly. I should be able to do that and that won't really matter, but it will big time when you go into the budget. Because when you try to actually put in people into the budget, if they are not flagged in the system as being added as a non-co-PI senior personnel, you can't put in budgetary information for them. That line will just not exist. So most of these items will actually be uploads like facilities, equipment, and other resources, project description, project summary, you can actually type out itself in here. But again, we always recommend using the template we sent out. That way it's a lot easier to fill that out and then just copy and paste. You can actually upload it as a supplementary document. And then for other things like a project description, when you click on that, you're actually just going to choose the file. Clicking choose file opens up a browser that will be able to point towards the files that you need or the files that you've saved. You would just choose that one and click upload. It's going to get a weird screen that says it's converting a PDF. Even if you are uploading it as a PDF, don't worry, it's just something that FastLane does. So going into something like collaborators and other affiliations, there's actually an NSF form for this, which you can click on and go through and just download the template. From here you can actually fill out the template. As you can see on this, it just asks you to name the people that you've worked with, whether they were thesis advisors for you, whether you actually worked with them, if you have a personal relationship, family relationship, business relationship, somebody that you know as a reviewer. Essentially, this is just NSF's way of separating it out so that people aren't reviewing for, their grandma or something like that. But once you have that form filled out, which again, you have to fill out for anybody that is a senior key personnel, you would just click on go next to their name. And same thing, choose the file, upload it. You'll get that weird screen about converting it to a PDF. And then it'll just drop you back. So then you click go back. So the two places besides project summary where you really do need to actually enter information are, of course, the budget and then current and pending support. So everybody that's a senior or key personnel for the project does need a current and pending support. There is a form out there, but a lot of times it's actually easier just to create the new form because it'll ask you for the title, the source, the location, so that's where the project is actually happening, and the total award amount. One thing that people kind of forget is, for some reason, NSF counts your current submission as pending support. So at the bare minimum, in this file, you're going to put the SBIR Phase 1 or STTR Phase 1, whatever you're working on, in as pending support. And again, this needs to be done for every single person that is a senior or key personnel for the project. So the only other thing where you have to put in a lot of information is actually in the budget section. So just click on go next to budget. Budget justification works like any of the other uploads. You just put your file in there. The one difference is going to be when you actually start creating your budget, you're going to have to click on add year. This would be, of course, year 1 for a phase 1. For a phase 2, you would put in, of course, a year 1 and a year 2 since it's 24 months. But you just click add from there. So you see under here both funds and personnel. You actually don't need to go into personnel because when you go into funds, you'll see that it starts off with a PI. That'll be the only person there. Then you go, well, I put in other personnel, where do they go? Well, you have to add or remove them from there. So if you would have clicked on personnel back there, you would have gotten the same exact screen here. So just click on the person, click save, and now you'll see that there is a new line item for that person. So for the personnel, just put in their title. Calendar months is how many months they're going to put towards the project. And then funds requested is just that number that you calculated out. Do make sure that your budget justification and your budget numbers match. If they don't, that's going to immediately get flagged as, hey, there's something weird going on here. Whenever you finish putting in the funds requested, if you click calculate, it'll just automatically sum them up for you. From here, your fringe benefits, you only put fringe benefits here if it's being charged as a direct cost. So that means that if you're going to charge a base $25,000 for 12 months of fringe benefits for all your employees, you would put it in there. As always recommended, try not to buy equipment under SBIR funding. It gets wonky real quick, particularly for having to do depreciation, for having to do, full and total completion of the equipment, essentially what they refer to oftentimes as burn. It's required that you burn through the equipment during the period of performance. You can't, or it's very frowned on to do things like buy a laptop that can be used for other purposes as well. So when it's equipment, it's kind of that single-use equipment style. So from here, you'd actually go down to travel. Travel domestic, don't forget that there is the NSF PI meeting that is required for at least the PI to attend. There is in the package a kind of amount they say that you can use for that. International travel is not allowed under an NSF, so that one should be blank. For participant support costs, they actually don't fund that under a phase 1, so that should be blank. For other direct costs, the only ones that you'll fill out here are materials and supplies. If you had a consultant or if you had subcontractors, that would go in there. They don't accept publication cost under a phase 1 or actually even just the silver program, so that one should be blank. So the other big kind of key thing that you need to do in here is your indirect cost. So you would actually list these out, like if you're going to charge a fringe rate, if you're going to charge an overhead rate, what have you. So you would actually put in what it is, the rate, and then you have to put in the base. If you leave the base blank and you calculate it, it's going to get an empty string error because it doesn't know what you're calculating it against. So for instance, we have our total direct cost of $95,500. I'm going to charge a 40% overhead rate on that. So then $95,500. Once I click calculate, that'll actually give it to me. So then that'll actually give you your total direct and indirect costs. The other key thing that's going to be the biggest portion for a small business is your fee. Remember, you can have up to a 7% fee. And of course, that 7% is calculated on top of these other things. And as you can see here, just putting in like 7% won't work because it takes this as a base number. So you have to actually use a calculator and figure out the 7% on your own. Because if I just put 7 in here and hit calculate, you can see it only increased my total cost and fees by $7. That means rather than charging a 7% fee, I'm charging a $7 fee. But going back to the subcontracts, so remember, up to 33% of the award and work can go out as subcontracts. And that's 33% of, people like to say the total, but it's the total direct and indirect cost. Taking into account that I have the $133,700, I'm going to find out what my fee is. So I take that and I multiply it by 0.7, or excuse me, 0.07. And that's $9,359. So now I drop my $9,359 into here. Remember, don't use any commas, don't use any dollar signs, just straight numbers. Click calculate. It's going to give me my new total down here. Now the 33% for the subcontracts is not weighed against 143,059. The 33% threshold is weighed against the 133,700. That's one thing to kind of keep into account is when you're looking at the subcontracts, you're not taking 33% of 143 as the base. You're taking 33% of 133,700 as the base. So once you do have that information in there, you calculate and save and just click go back. The good thing about the budget is this form is a living form, so you can change it as much as you need to up until the submission point. One of the things that's great is that this information is actually saved by the system. So if you ever need to close it and restart it, or you want to just work on it piecemeal, it's saved as your temporary proposals in progress. Once you log in, you would just click that, click edit, and you're going to get back to the same exact screen. And as you can see, it already has some of the information, like I saved the budget. Even though I clicked on the buttons, I didn't actually upload anything, so those aren't saved. So one thing that's actually great about the FastLane system is that you can check the status of your proposal. So if you go into this main screen, highlight the proposal and click check, it'll actually run a compliance check against the proposal and what's required. So as you can see here, I don't have anything in project summary, I don't have anything in budget justification, I don't have anything in project description, and this is going to kind of flag the proposal as not being submittable. You can't actually submit the proposal until all of the red items are gone. You can actually have all of the black items still there. It's kind of just not preferred. Fill all that information out if you can. But that's kind of a real brief and high-level overview about how to use the FastLane system. If you have any questions, feel free to contact the NMFast program. We'd be happy to help you figure it out.